Like the fire, feel the beat. Gday Gridiron can't be beat. Nick your knee and bring the heat. Brad's the MVP elite. From the outback through the field, we got tackles hard to steal. Catch the passes, make it real. Gridiron warriors never kneel. Gday Gridiron, down under and beyond. Gday Gridiron, yeah, the podcast come on strong.
G'day Aussie Gridiron fans and welcome to the G'day Gridiron podcast, brought to you by the Aussie Gridiron Network, Australia's home of NFL and local gridiron content. It's Ian and Brad back for week 6 overreactions. We are 1/3 of the way through the season now, and there are a whole bunch of overreactions from the week that was. We also have some trade news as well today, Brad, to go through. It's all going on.
We have a bevy of news, a bevy of overreactions, a virtual cornucopia of information that we have to get through. So yeah, it's a good day. It was a good weekend for football. And what's the deal? No upsets this week. I mean, what is going on? So
No upsets. All the favourites won this week. Unreal, isn't it?
it's not how the season has gone so far, but welcome to the NFL.
There is at least one guy in our AGN group, the Aussie NFL Fantasy group of guys that we're in, Brad, that put on a bet for every one of the favourites this week and came home with a good chunk of money. So, and we were chatting about that earlier in the group. That's something I used to do when I was doing NRL tipping back in the day. I used to put on the 8 games or so that we had to choose from that week. I'd put all my tips in, and I'd do my picks into a multi and just put a few dollars on just to spice it up a little for the week. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure it doesn't come off more than it does come off, but you know,
Right. But when it does come off, don't you feel like a genius?
Oh man, when a $460 multi comes off, you feel like pretty good. Well, it was at 460, Brad. He ended up with like a few grand out of that, I think. So
Are you kidding me?
no.
Oh, I had no idea. I have never even come close to winning that just because I can't afford to lay down the money. But if you're paying 460, throw up $5 on that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, $5 is nothing. Even $2 is nothing. You paid 460. You come out with a grand. No worries.
Yeah, I'll take
Yeah,
that.
what a fun week. All of the favourites hit. No upsets. Which, you know what? Even with all the favourites hitting, Brad, I would say that it was still a good week of football. It wasn't like a boring week of football.
100%. No. I got up and I started watching, my usual 4:30 or so, and
Yuck.
I know, and I tried to go red zone just because I like to see everything that's happening, but I've gotten away from the red zone. When it first came out, I loved it, but and now I love getting into the game itself, and I feel like it detracts from knowing what's happening in a game. So I said screw this, and I just turned it off and restarted the Commanders versus Ravens game. So. And that was a good game to restart.
That was definitely a good game to restart.
Yeah.
I jumped in partway through in a little bit. So, of course, we were still away and packing up van on Monday to come home because we came home from Bathurst on Monday. So it was not much of a sleep in anyway because it was up early with the rest of the campground that was around us, everyone packing up gear at 5 a.m. So,
did it take you 6 hours to get out of there?
It just actually did. It may as well have been 6 hours from our campground to probably, let's say a public road. in terms of we wound our way through the campground with everybody else. So from the point we got into the car and we sat in a line till when we hit the public road itself was an hour. And that is usually a probably 2-minute max trip.
Wow.
And it was an hour sitting there with other people. It took us an hour and a half to get through Bathurst itself. So
There you go. Yeah, yeah. But you know that going in, so.
it was worse than previous years. Usually a lot of people leave on Sunday, and this year apparently everyone decided they would stay on Monday as well. So we had friends that were with us that left on Sunday, and they basically packed up Sunday night and were free and easy right through town.
Gotcha.
No traffic at all. And yeah, if we were a bit more prepared, we probably would have left Sunday as well, but we didn't. So anyway, if we would have left Sunday, I would have been able to get up and watch football, but I didn't get to do too much of that. So I've had to watch bits and pieces, but there's definitely some fun games. Commanders Ravens was a great one. I came in a little bit through on Monday in Bucks Saints, which we'll talk a little bit about later. That was nuts. When I saw the scores that at halftime, I was like, "Oh, here we go. The Bucks are going to lose this." And then later on, I was just like, "Where did that come from?" Most of the games I was watching, I was following along with my bets.
Okay. Yep.
Incidentally, I didn't do much in the way of best bets on the show last week because I hadn't really done a lot of research, but I did put all our bets out on socials for the first time. And if you didn't catch those, make sure you go to the AGN mothership. That is linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network for all of our social links, all the social links for the Aussie NFL fantasy guys, Manjot, Pastry Press on his YouTube and Instagram links as well as a lot of other stuff at that Linktree, merch links, to all kinds of awesome merch from around the AGN and a lot of other fun stuff. Go check that out. So if you join us on our socials, I'm going to start putting our best bets out on socials each week so everyone can comment on them and rag on us. So we'll talk a bit about that more when Nick is with us for the preview show on Saturday. But for today, Brad, how about first up, instead of overreactions like we would usually get stuck into straight away, why don't we talk about wide receiver trade day? We are recording on Wednesday, Australian time, Wednesday night. You will hear this Thursday morning for sure. And today in the NFL, two massive wide receiver trades. One obviously bigger than the other. There was more talked about than the other, but two very big ones with some big stuff going on for both teams. So let's kick it off with the obvious one. Devontae Adams to the New York Jets, or the New York Packers, as some people are referring to them now as. The New York Jets have acquired wide receiver Devontae Adams from the Las Vegas Raiders in a significant trade that aims to bolster what is their struggling offense. The Jets sent a conditional third-round pick in the 2025 draft to the Raiders, which could escalate to a second-round pick based on Adams' performance, specifically if he is named an All-Pro or is active for the AFC Championship game or Super Bowl. The Jets picked up all of his salary, all the money, so they took on all of that from the Raiders. Trade comes after Adams expressed a desire to leave Las Vegas due to dissatisfaction with team dynamics and performance issues. Adams joined the Raiders in March 2022 after being traded from the Packers for significant draft capital. In his first season with Las Vegas, he recorded pretty impressive stats, 100 catches for about 1,500 yards, led the league with 14 touchdowns. However, performances dipped significantly in second season. Can be attributed largely to a unknown QB play, though, second season and this season too, though, Brad.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what Aaron wants, Aaron gets.
Definitely.
It's crazy to think what's happening over there. The question you got to ask is, why? I get why the Jets are doing everything they can to win now. Hey, Cowboys fans, this is what all in means. Even if it doesn't work, this is what it looks like. So
Yes,
Jerry
this is what it
Jones.
I don't know whether Jerry knows what that looks like, but this is what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. I applaud the Jets for at least trying. They're trying to make something of this. So in regards specifically to Devontae, I think he could go out there and play tomorrow. Really, that's
I
in
think
my
they're
opinion.
looking at playing him Sunday, from what I've read, Brad.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
Sunday.
It's
Is it
it's
Sunday? Yeah, Sunday they play. Yeah.
yeah Sunday. It's amazing how his hamstring all of a sudden gets better.
Oh yeah, yeah. That
Yeah,
mysterious hamstring injury he's had for the last 3 weeks.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The kind of rapport that he has with Aaron Rodgers is it's special. I think they have the most touchdown quarterback combinations like in the last 20 years. Touchdown. So I don't know if it's 10,
Yeah,
15 years.
there's some very impressive stats that they put together at the Packers for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So and if you're the Jets skill players, I think if you're a team player, you got to like this because yes, you're
Well,
spreading the ball out,
unless you're
but
Mike Williams, who is probably going to end up like
yeah,
really on the outer, maybe even moved on because of this trade. But
yeah, yeah,
Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard as a wide receiver trio, that's pretty hefty.
absolutely. Yeah, and
I worry
it's
though about the Jets and this whole win now thing. They're at 2-4. Like
yeah,
you,
yeah,
they're going to have to go on a pretty significant run here to not just make the playoffs, but to be any kind of force. Not just like you don't want to just sneak into a wild card at this point. Not when you're in win now mode because you're doing it the hard way. So I don't know, Brad. I feel like they're going to have to go on a pretty significant win streak,
Oh,
like
they are. Yeah, definitely.
like an 8 in a row kind of deal here.
Well,
They
yeah, I
need
mean,
to get. I would think that they would need to get somewhere around 10 wins to be a playoff team at this point.
I don't know 10, but definitely they're going to have a little bit of run. But if you look at their schedule, their schedule kind of sets them up for that. If you look at their next 5 games, so we got Steelers, then the Pats, then the Texans, Cardinals, and Colts.
And then they got the
They,
bye. Yeah, so five
yeah,
games
yeah.
into the bye. Yeah,
Yeah. So they could conceivably win 4 of those 5. Really, I could see them losing to the Texans, but they could the win. And so if they win 4 of those 5, what are they 6-5? So and they're back on that winning side. That's what it's going to take because then they close out. Well, they close out the season. Um, Actually, it doesn't look too bad. So after the Colts, they've got Seahawks, Dolphins, which are way down, Jags, way down, Rams, down, Bills, yeah, okay, and then Dolphins again, down. So
I worry more because they still struggled against teams when they were beating them. They struggled against
yeah,
Tennessee.
yeah,
They really struggled against San Francisco, even though the scoreline looks a little bit better. The Denver game was a real worry, that 10-9 game. And I know there was weather affected big time.
yeah,
They looked terrible against Minnesota.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
horrible.
yes.
Probably the worst that they've looked. It looked pretty good against the Bills, though.
They did well, and I give them credit. They make an OC change, and it shows. They had more big chunk plays down the field. But the reality is, okay, so even that you bring in Adams, it's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is not playing like the Aaron Rodgers of old. So he's still showing that he's an NFL quarterback, but he's not MVP Aaron Rodgers. That defense is not elite anymore. They're not playing elite. That defensive line is getting blown off the ball a little bit. So you're right. I have some concerns about them. We still typically kind of look at the Jets and we think elite defense, but they have not been playing elite defense
No.
ball lately. So I think your concerns are justified, and
Yeah.
you're not alone in that.
My biggest problem, I think, in the next 5 is if you don't win this week, if you lose to Pittsburgh, and then you lose that game to the Texans,
Oh,
you're on the precipice of being an 8-9, 9-8 team.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
where that's where you're at,
yeah.
and
Yep.
then you risk missing missing a wild card berth because of being 500.
Yeah,
There's so
yeah.
many teams in that space. So
Yeah, this Steelers games to me,
matters.
uh, oh yeah, it's huge. It's going to show a lot of who they are, really. And I know 6 weeks into the season, we kind of already know who they are. They're an 9-win team. I think, like what you're saying. They might get lucky and get up to 10. I doubt it, but yeah, it's going to depend on what everybody else does in the conference, just to
Yeah.
see if they can compete or
The
not.
funny part about this Steelers game this week is that Mike Tomlin said in a press conference this week, because the Steelers played the Raiders in week 6 just gone, is that he said, I spent last week planning to maybe come up against Devontae Adams, and now I'm spending this week planning to maybe come up against Devontae Adams. So,
Yeah, right, right.
so
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a funny way that worked out. All right, the second of our wide receiver trades that happened this week, Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills. The Bills made a pretty significant move by acquiring Cooper from the Cleveland Browns. In exchange, the Bills are sending a third round and a 2026 seventh round pick, so a 2025 third round and a 26 seventh round to the Browns, while also receiving a sixth round pick back from the Browns. This trade marks another chapter in Cooper's long and travelled career, his third trade since entering the NFL. Over his career, Cooper has established himself as one of the premier wide receivers, earning 5 Pro Bowl selections and accumulating over 9,700 receiving yards and 62 touchdowns. He's recorded 7 seasons with over 1,000 receiving yards, including consecutive seasons with the Browns. The Browns restructured Cooper's contract earlier in March by converting nearly $19 million into a signing bonus. As a result, Buffalo Bills will only take on around $900,000 against their salary cap for this season. Such a small amount given up in terms of a third round and a pick swap, and only $900K for a guy who brings what would be a lot of upside to a Bills offense that is in desperate need of some quality wide receivers.
Oh, 1,000%. And I've heard it argued that this trade is even more impactful or valuable to a team than the Devontae trade.
I would say
And
so. I mean, just
yeah,
look at the value you get.
yeah, it's crazy.
I mean,
To
he's
me,
not noted as a guy that can be like a deal breaker. Like he can't go out there and just make things happen. But
sure,
he's known
right.
as a guy. He's got amazing hands. We've always known that about Cooper. Some great highlights from Amari over the years. Just him catching ridiculous things. But if you give him a route to run, he is going to be in that spot where he's supposed to be able to catch whatever ball is thrown his way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's weird because like you said, it is his third team, but it's just I think it's more situational. He's had some rotten luck, really, just on I think on the teams he's played, and I think him playing with Allen is just gonna be it's gonna be really good for him and for the Bills, and I think this because they needed a man beater. And that's exactly what Cooper is. So what teams were just playing a man defense, and the Bills weren't able to do anything. If you look at the stats, the Bills aren't able to do anything against when teams play man defense against them. They really, really struggle. Amari Cooper's strength is beating man defense. So this is just a perfect match. So hats off to the Bills. I'm wondering how much of this was like, okay, they saw the Jets make the move and they said, no, we got to get this something done. Those are one of those we'll never know type scenarios. But I love it.
I wonder if they were in on the Devontae talks at all. The Bills.
Well, I've heard they are. We won't know. I've heard they were, but for value, for money, I think this is a much better pick. Just because I could see Amari staying there. Not that Devontae won't stay in New York, but you never know. Basically, New York is just renting Devontae, whereas I think with Amari, he's got a better chance at staying, just because this will be the best quarterback that he's ever played with. So sorry, Dak, but I'll take Allen over you any day. So it'll be, I think, extremely fun to watch and see how he integrates himself. And the value that he brings, like we said, is just next to none.
Yep, absolutely, mate. And we talked a little bit about the Jets' next few opponents. The Bills are in that same division, 4-2, so they are at the top of that division. They've got a little bit better, a slightly better schedule than the Jets. They do have to take on Kansas City and San Francisco and the Lions because of where they fell last season in the tree. But again, next 5, because they've got a Week 12 bye week as well. Colts, Seahawks, Dolphins, Titans. Oh, go again, eh? Titans, Seahawks, Dolphins, Colts, Kansas City. Indoor bye week. So, sorry, I had to get that. Jesus, I'm having trouble with English right now.
No, you're all good. You're all good. Yeah, because they present the schedule left to right versus up to down. Stimulating.
Apparently, I was reading it down to up, Brad, but that's just a whole different problem.
I love it. Yeah, these next 5 games are pretty crucial. They'll win the Titans game. The Seahawks game to me is going to be very interesting. I think that's going to be, again, because I see those teams kind of on a similar tier. I know a lot of people would say, "What? Bills are way better," but the Seahawks have been decimated by injury. And I think they're better than what they've shown these last couple of weeks. So I'm looking forward to that Seahawks matchup. But I think, if Tua doesn't come back in the next couple of weeks, then, they could be looking at a good record, looking 4-5, 6-3, going into that Chiefs game. But those 2 weeks there where they go back to back, Chiefs and then 49ers, and then they get the Rams and then the Lions. That little 4-game stretch there where they're playing arguably 3 of the 4 best teams in the NFL. That's going to be tough.
Tough. It's a tough matchup coming into Christmas, basically, for them.
Yeah.
So through Thanksgiving into Christmas is a tough period for the Bills.
Yep. So it'll be fun though.
It absolutely will be fun. Very, very fun. All right, Brad, let's go to some overreactions for Week 6. Let's kick it off with a little bit from Baker Mayfield.
We have a resilient group. The culture we have within our own building, and it's not just our players, our staff as well, just to be able to handle the things that we had to go through this week, not making an excuse of it, just taking the opportunity to say, screw it. Let's go have fun on the road, make the most of it, and go find a way to win.
And screw it, they did, Brad. Screw it, they did. 51-27 over the Saints, including 27 unanswered points in the second half alone. To absolutely dominate a very, very lackluster Saints. Brad, I have an overreaction question for you.
Yeah.
The Bucks might be a team that could go longer into the playoffs than any of us actually expect.
Well,
Overreacting.
Yeah, I mean, well, in the sense of
my rationale is that we know that they're probably going to be in there anyway. They'll top the AFC South.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Sorry, NFC South. It is what it is. That's that division. They're going to top that division. It's going to pan out that way now. If the Bucks come up against the right team, the wrong team, the right team, the right kind of matchup for them in a playoff game and in consecutive playoff games, could we see the Bucks possibly at the championship level?
NFC Championship level, I think anything's possible, and that's the thing about Baker. You get on a hot streak. Baker gets on one of these hot streaks, and absolutely they could. That offense, that receiving core, is Evans and Godwin is next to none. And if Baker's playing lights out, absolutely. They're definitely doing better than I think what people thought. I still, I know you say you give them the South. I'm not going to give it to them just yet, just simply because I'm such a Falcons homer right now.
You can be a homer all you want, mate. That's going to happen.
Right. But it's so here's the deal with the Bucks. If they play like they did in quarters 1, 3, and 4 of this week's last game, then yeah, absolutely, they could get to the championship game. I wouldn't know. I don't know if I'm going to go as far as the Super Bowl, but they at least get in that conversation.
Quarter two was atrocious, but
exactly. But if
again,
they play
you talk
like
about
quarter 2.
Yeah, that was atrocious. I mean, they didn't play that well in quarter 3 either. And that was later in that interview, Baker admitted that too. He actually says, I don't know what we were doing in the third quarter, but we need to tighten that up. So they were expecting to come out at halftime and be scoring bucket loads and really dominating. So
I mean, who the hell's Sean Tucker? I mean, the dude gets 192 yards, 2 touchdowns on 17 touches. So they rush for 277 yards, which is the third highest total in franchise history.
Just Sean Tucker, 136 yards on the ground, 56 through the air. Like,
yeah, right.
Bucky Irving, 81 on the ground with a touchdown.
Here's you want to talk about wild. I heard this
and
stat
24
earlier.
in the air, by the way. Yeah.
Okay.
Wild.
Yeah,
yep. Go.
right.
Go. Sorry, bro.
Baker Mayfield throws for 317 yards. His average pass downfield was less than 3 yards. Take that in for a second.
He threw 24 or 36.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
But his average pass downfield was less than 3. So that's basically saying Godwin gets the ball and just runs, in past 16 people, and it's just unreal what he does.
I mean, he had that 55-yard touchdown run.
Yeah.
He got that thing within like 4 or 5 yards of scrimmage, and there was just the Saints just forgot how to tackle at all in this game. I think he ran past 5 separate people that had missed tackles, like actually tried to tackle him and missed a tackle in that one run.
Yeah.
And then Bucky Irving ran sideline to sideline at one point. And they were just missing him completely.
That's stuff you do in high school and college,
it was
not in the
woeful.
pros.
The Saints tackling was woeful, but the
Oh,
Bucks.
well, yeah. We don't want to get started on the Saints. This, going into the season, the Saints basically my concern with them and everybody else was that their defense was old and slow. Guess what they looked like on Sunday? Old and slow. So, and I'm sorry, Spencer Rattler. As much as I want you to be successful, no, man, you're not the answer.
Poor Spencer Rattler. He did throw 22 complete passes though, and 243 yards.
Yeah,
and his first NFL touchdown as well. So
yeah, and he looked decent in the first half, but the second half they make some adjustments, and they couldn't do anything.
Yeah,
so
they took it, and that's just Todd Bowles' defense really. It hasn't looked great this season either, but he knows how to tighten it up midway through a game. That's for sure. He really knows that, and that's just experience. Spencer Rattler will come along though. That kid's got a lot of prospect.
I hope he does.
There's a lot going on with him.
Yeah.
He didn't have the greatest college career because he ended up as Caleb Williams' backup at one point, but he came into a team that all of the entire O-line were all all left at once. They all were all seniors at once. So
Okay, yep.
he came into a complete a bunch of freshmen that they picked up off the portal. Yeah, all at once that they cobbled together. Guys that are probably never going to see the NFL. They're probably all used car salesmen now while Spencer Rattler's throwing balls here.
Yeah, yeah.
And he made it work, and he's been through that attrition before. So going into this Saints offense, which is again cobbled together with a bunch of guys that shouldn't really be playing the NFL at this point, he knows how to deal with that adversity. But
Yeah,
anyway,
and I don't want to get on the Saints, but how quickly things turn. After 2-0, everybody thinks they're world beaters. Now they've lost the last four.
2-4.
Yeah.
What happened to Alvin Kamara? 13 for 40. Bye. We all knew that was going to happen again. Didn't we?
Oh yeah, it always happens.
Yeah. It's like one or two good games, and see you later, Alvin.
Yeah.
That's all that happens there. All right, Brad, we got to do it. We'll do it early. Mike McCarthy will get fired during the bye week.
Overreacting.
Not even an overreaction, surely, Brad.
Actually, well, there's a difference between overreacting because it's not going to happen and overreacting because it should happen.
47-9, Brad. You lost 47-9.
I know.
And they were running trick plays with offensive linemen.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. They could do no wrong.
They ran a hook and ladder with an offensive lineman, for God's sake, Brad.
Do you think Ben Johnson was just advertising for the job for the Cowboys to be the next Cowboys head coach?
Well, you would love that, wouldn't you?
Oh, mate. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Talk about being hard.
Swing. Yeah, it definitely.
I made that. Remember, I made that call preseason that Mike Zimmer got this job because Jerry Jones was looking for a backup, some kind of safety plan that if McCarthy didn't do well, that he could punt him and he'd have someone there ready to go. But then Zimmer's defenses look like absolute balls as well. So what are you going to do now? You going to get rid of both of them because you pretty much need to.
Oh, it's not like, and that's what makes me kind of say, no, it's not going to happen. I think it really comes down to this next game or two, really. And Jerry has pulled the trigger. He historically doesn't like to fire guys midseason. He's only done it once. He did it with Wade Phillips. And the reason he did it with Wade Phillips is because they started 1-7, and he could tell that the guys just were not playing hard. And so he made the switch. You don't get beat 40-something to 9 unless you're not playing hard, like in the NFL. That doesn't happen unless you basically kind of give up. And so my thought is, if Jerry sees that again, then he knows he's lost the locker room. Then they're done. And then
McCarthy was talking in his press conference, like waffling on about changing. They need a culture change and stuff. It's October. What are you talking about changing culture for? It's October, for God's sakes.
No, you are who you are in October. Yeah. So there's not going to be some big revelatory thing that's going to happen. They're not going to trade for anybody. So, Tony Dorsett is not walking through those doors. Emmitt Smith is not walking through those doors. Nobody is coming back from the doomsday defense. So you know who you are, and it's unless things improve, he's going to get fired. It's just a matter of when. A
couple more tidbits on the Cowboys this week and the insanity of your circus right now, Brad. And I'm not gloating just because I'm 5-0. It's because it is insane things that are coming out of Jerry Jones's mouth. Mike McCarthy doesn't know what he's doing. Jerry Jones said when talking about Zeke, we're saving Zeke for the playoffs. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Jerry? You're 3-3. You've got the 49ers, the Falcons, the Eagles, the Texans, and the Commanders coming up. Dude, you got to be 3-8.
Yeah, this is 82-year-old Jerry talking out of his ass, and I kind of was thinking, well, the Cowboys, they know they can't score 82 points for his 82nd birthday, so they're gonna give up 82 points for this 82nd birthday. It's just
They nearly
it's
did.
embarrassing.
They nearly did. All right, the Bears will make playoffs in Caleb Williams' rookie season.
Overreacting. Overreacting.
It's got to be
No,
an overreaction. It's got to be an overreaction, Brad.
no, it's not. It's not an overreaction. And how quickly this has turned around, and goes to show how we overreact in general to way too small of a sample size. Everybody was quick to throw Caleb Williams under the bus. I still think the coach is a mistake, and I'm not pro their head coach. But Caleb Williams, everybody was saying, oh my gosh, he's going to be a bust, blah, 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 after a couple weeks. The thing about him is he's gotten better every week. Every week he has gotten better. And what more can you ask for? And they've all of a sudden they found a run game. So the run game is looking decent. And it's just, and if you look at the rest of the NFC, so we're talking about them and getting into the playoffs, I think they've got a real shot. I do.
Brad, you got to make it out of the NFC North first, and that
Yeah.
division is
Yeah.
insanity this year.
Yeah.
The Bears are at 4-2, and they are still fourth in this division right now. Any other team that is 4-2 in the league is at the top or near the top of their division, and the Bears are fourth at 4-2. Here's a wild stat: the points differential, between for and against, the points differential for the NFC North is greater than all of the conferences, both conferences. So just the NFC North's points differential, because of those four teams, is greater than the whole of the NFC conference and the whole of the AFC conference. It's better.
Oh, that's insane. That is absolutely well, and the other one, I'm sure everybody's heard by now, but since conference realignment in I think '02, they're the first division to have four 4-win teams by week 6. So that just goes to show how tough that division is, and so they're not getting any gimmies. The thing is, they do have a favorable schedule coming
They
up.
do. They have the better schedule because they were fourth in that division last season. So you
exactly.
do get you get the blessing of the better schedule. So if you can improve, and oh god, yeah, I mean, they've got to play the Commanders, the Commanders, Cardinals, Patriots, Green Bay, then Minnesota again. Next 5. It's tough. There's a tough run in the middle there, though. Packers. You got Packers, Vikings, Lions. You've got 3 divisional games all in a row.
Okay.
Then you got the 49ers. Then you go back to the divisional games with Seattle jammed in there as well.
Okay.
I don't know if it is the favourable one. If the division keeps going the way it's going, I don't see how that's favourable at all. Because every single game is like you've got to have it. There's no backing off at all. It has to be pedal to the metal the whole way.
Yeah, that 4-game stretch there, what you're talking about with the Packers, the Bears, the Lions, the 49ers, that's going to be...
We can take it further than that, Brad. You can go then the Vikings again, then the Lions again.
Okay.
There's a 6-game stretch there before you get to Seattle. It's tough. And I'm not saying this is the Bears alone in this division.
Sure.
Every team in this division, that's what their schedule looks like.
Yeah, exactly. Because the division
from mid-November onwards, their schedule is insane.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. No, it's going to be tough. Somebody's going to come out of there. But you're right. It could be cannibalization. I just think the way he keeps improving, and they're finally found a run game, and their defense is playing good, and really that's what you need. You just need an above-average offense and a really good defense, and you can find success.
Here's an overreaction that got thrown out this week, and it's definitely an overreaction. The Ravens will go undefeated for the rest of the regular season.
Overreacting. Overreacting.
And again, talking about how teams' fortunes have completely changed. Everybody was ready to throw the Ravens under the bus, and now you're right. People are talking about they're going to be undefeated, and I think they're definitely in that Super Bowl contention. Undefeated, yeah, no, that's an overreaction. It's just too
they're
hard.
4-2 now. It's too hard to do.
Yeah,
It's too hard to do. I mean, even we talked about Tampa Bay earlier, and they've got Tampa Bay up next. So, Todd Bowles is no slouch on defense, as we talked about. And he, you've got to believe that he will have been studying that Ravens offense for the last couple of weeks and seeing what they're doing, because he knows that the game's going to matter a lot. And it's Monday Night Football as well. So you're under lights. It all matters. It all matters a lot. They're playing the Browns after that, who, God, they're looking more woeful than the 2023 Panthers, to be honest.
They're they're as worse as the winless Browns. So it's pretty bad when you're in competition with yourself for the two worst teams of all time.
Yeah.
So
then you've got the Broncos, they've got the Bengals, they've got Steelers again. There's some hard games in there. I can't
wait to see the Ravens game. Or the Chargers game. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a fun one when you get the Harbaughs going against each other.
I'll tell you what, Brad. I hadn't prepped any of us for this one. I hadn't thrown it out there to you. I'm going to throw it because I just thought of this overreaction now, and it is to do with the Cleveland Browns. I don't believe that the Cleveland Browns will win another game until they make a change at quarterback or coach.
Overreacting. Overreacting.
Not an overreaction. Deshaun Watson is the worst quarterback in the NFL. That's right. You heard me say that. He is playing like the worst quarterback in the NFL.
And we just talked about Spencer Rattler earlier, and he's a fourth day pick.
Yeah. And until they make a decision, and the way that owner has just done that team, he's right there with Jerry Jones for and that's saying a lot for bad decisions. So it's
They desperately need to make a change. Everybody can see it. And yet, week after week after week, Stefanski keeps saying, we're going to stick with him. We're going to stick with him. He's either got something, someone's got something on Stefanski. He's not allowed to do it. Like it's above his head, that kind of thing. But they need to man up. Either way, they're going to eat the money because he got a guaranteed contract. So either way, you're going to eat the money. Who cares what happens from here? There can only be one way, and that can be up. So Jameis Winston isn't going to be the best quarterback in the world. He's not going to take you to a Super Bowl, but you can guarantee that there's surely an upside from moving off Deshaun Watson and putting Jameis Winston in there. There has to be.
100%.
There's only one way. And with the weapons they still have, because they've just gotten rid of Cooper, the weapons that they still have, then surely Jameis Winston can win something. They can do something more.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And if you're Jameis, man, how frustrating would it be going to practice?
And it's one of Stefanski's things he said that really irked me this week was that he said that he feels like Deshaun Watson gives them the best chance to win right now. Well, why did you trade and pick up Jameis Winston? Why is he there? If you don't feel like the guy that is your backup, is your QB2, gives you a good chance to win, why is he there?
Yeah, because Winston is playing historically bad. Not just bad, historically bad. And it's just, I got to say, it's the owner. To me, it's just a pride issue. That's what I don't understand.
The guy's had injury. He's had injury issues in the past, right? So he even had last year. So let's say he got injured again. Are you saying you don't think that Jameis Winston is going to let you win a game?
Yeah,
because he's going to have to play.
Absolutely.
You have to have a quarterback, or you're just going to not run out there with a quarterback. Let's put an offensive lineman at quarterback and just hand the ball off. Why
Yeah.
not? But like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
It's turning into embarrassment. It
Yeah.
really is. So, if the only thing that I think it could bring some entertainment value to this is to see, well, how bad can they really get? If the players start making business decisions, then you're going to see a lot of scoreless Browns games. And that Broncos Browns game on the first week in December, whew, that's going to be an exciting one if they're still with Deshaun.
Oh, I mean, they don't have much left anyway in the locker room.
No,
So who's going to
no.
make juice? Yeah, poor old Jerry Judy. He's
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, Judy and Miles Garrett, and right now I'd be blowing
Well,
that
let's.
thing
I
up.
mean, you talk about the defense. There's guys in that defense who have been playing hurt, like Miles Garrett, have still been playing hurt week after week because they still believe. And it's
Yeah.
like, isn't it like there's a weird separation?
Yes.
There's a separation between the two sides, isn't it? Like, it feels like they're two separate teams in that one team. Like the
Yeah.
offense is just horrible. They can't get anything going. They're doing it, but the defense are like they're a rock solid unit, and they still believe that they can do something every week when they run out on the pitch.
Yeah. Nah, then they're playing for pride. And I think as long as you got Miles Garrett there, the guy is just a warrior, and he plays hurt, he plays injured, whatever. And I think he's the leader of that defense, and he won't let them fold. But there's only so much they can do.
I think either Dalvin Tomlinson or Shelby Harris have also been playing slightly injured as well,
Okay.
which tells
Yeah.
you a lot about these guys and the heart that they've got on defense.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
well, I mean, they could get a lot of draft capital if they start wanting to blow that thing up, though, and send in some guys. So, I mean, if you're in tank mode, if that's what the idea is, like,
That's what I'd do. Yeah, I mean, but their pride won't let them. The owner's pride. I mean, shoot, but you got to say him making the decision to give Watson all that money in the first place was stupid. So
100%.
he hasn't shown any propensity for making good decisions. Why all of a sudden would it start now with them exploding the team and getting draft capital?
Yep, absolutely. All right, that's overreactions for week 6. Brad, let's see what Gday AI has pegged as our top 5 storylines for this week.
NFL talking weekly buzz. Who's the best? Who's getting love? Top 5 stories, gotta say good day AI. Let's start the day.
Let's start with something that we'd already talked a little bit about. Upsets in week 6 in a surprising turn of events, as we talked about at the top of the show. All 14 favourites winning their respective games marks a pretty big contrast from previous weeks where a lot of upsets were common. And also, one of the other big parts that goes with that is start of the season, first, last 1 and 2, everybody, the world was talking about how the offense, none of the offenses were playing well, and maybe it was a defensive year, and the offenses were all going to be down. And I mean, what do we got now? We've got 50 burgers every week. We've got teams doing 30 to 30 games, pretty much. Offenses are back.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, and that's pretty par for the course, I think, in the sense of offenses try to start the season as vanilla as they possibly can, because it's all about building iterations on the plays and on the concepts. So you show these tendencies, you see the defensive adjust after a couple games, and then the offense then makes their adjustments. And so it's this cycle. You'll see it. And so then the defenses will start to clamp down. You'll see scores come down a little bit. It wouldn't surprise me if you start seeing them come down here this next week or the week after, and then the offenses will come out with their third iteration, and that's just how the NFL works. That's how good coaching works. Gone is the days of this is our offense, and we're going to run this offense for the exact same stuff for the whole year, unless you're Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, which that's what they do. But so it's
Just keep running it till it works, Brad.
Oh gosh, yeah, exactly. So no upsets. It doesn't surprise me too much right now.
No. Steelers dominate Raiders in Las Vegas, effectively turning Allegiant Stadium into a home field advantage. Steelers' defense was particularly impressive, limiting the Raiders to just 57 rushing yards while securing a pretty decisive 32-13 win over the Raiders, where even a change at QB didn't help whatever ails the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. You're right. It was the steel curtain kind of version 2, a little bit. Just this game, at least, getting 3 turnovers. T.J. Watt being T.J. Watt, getting his forcing a fumble at the 1-yard line. So hats off to the Steelers, and they went back to rushing the ball as well. So you saw Najee Harris get
183 yards on the ground for the Steelers.
Yeah.
So and 3 TDs.
Yeah. And
including
the Raiders,
two Justin's Fields.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So if it wouldn't been the Raiders making these costly mistakes, they could have still been in it. I mean, but they turned the ball over 3 times. Steelers block a punt. So it's just too many mistakes, and that resulted in a lot of points for the Steelers, which, what's the number one indicator? Is turnovers. So if you can win the turnover battle, then your odds of winning the game just shoot up astronomically. So, and the Raiders don't have a decent quarterback. They don't have decent wide receivers. So, I think this is, though, in my opinion, this is one of those don't get fooled games, and I think it's making the Pittsburgh look a little bit better than what they really are. Personally, I think the Raiders are pretty woeful, in my opinion.
The insane thing out of this 32-13 win is that the Steelers have already said that Russell Wilson will be starting this week.
Did they say that?
Yeah, that's been what's been talked about already.
I did not know that. I knew that it was talked about, but I didn't know.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that came out today from Rap Sheet. It's just insane. Yeah, I don't know why they would do it. Justin Fields, it wasn't even a bad game for Justin Fields. It was an okay game. He had 59 rushing yards and 2 TDs on the ground, for God's sakes. He went 14-24 for 145. There wasn't a lot going on through the air because it was all rushing anyway, but he did the right thing.
Yeah. The only thing I could see why they would do it is they would maybe trot him out there, let him play a half or maybe the full game, see that he's poop, and then just tell everybody else, okay, shut up. We know he's not going to work. We're going with Justin.
I feel like that. You know what, Brad? I feel like that might be what ends up happening. I think that's where it's going to go.
Because you can't tell me that he's going to be any better than Justin Fields. There's just no way.
No, he doesn't. We've talked about it before a lot. On this podcast. It's just, he doesn't offer an upside that Justin Fields doesn't already offer. Mm-hmm. It's just what it is. All right, Gday AI number 3 for this week in talking points. What is the Bears' triumph over the Jags in London, where the Chicago Bears and rookie quarterback Caleb Williams delivered a pretty outstanding performance, beating the lackluster Jacksonville Jaguars 35-16 in London, making a pretty significant milestone for both Williams and the franchise as they look to build a lot of momentum. We've talked a bit about the Bears already. Let's talk a bit about the Jags, I guess, Brad. Not so good in a place that is essentially their second home.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and in my opinion, I think Doug Peterson's going to be the first one that's going to get fired here, or the second one, because
they're 1-5 now, so it's very likely, Brad.
Yeah, and historically they've played pretty well in London, but this is making me go, okay. Well, did Peterson just catch lightning in a bottle when he won the Super Bowl with Philly? Because he hasn't been able to do anything since. So,
they've got another game against New England in London this week, which is possibly one of the worst games to ever send overseas. Pats versus Jags at this point in time is just a woeful matchup for anybody to watch.
isn't
let
it?
alone put that as the London game. I mean, it'll still sell out because it is what it is.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
But God, their bye week isn't until week 12, and I really wonder when he might get the punt. To be honest,
It's got to happen soon, I think. But again, it's one of those probably. Okay, if we get rid of him, who are we going to get? So, even if it's the just an interim tag, is that really the route you want to go down? But if the players just kind of give up, that's the telltale sign with so many of these things. Has the locker room been lost? And the way they're playing, it seems like they're on the verge of that. So, yeah, it would not surprise me if he's the next domino to fall.
Brad, you said you watched a fair bit of this game. Ravens secure victory against the Commanders in a clash of the division leaders. The Baltimore Ravens beat the Washington Commanders 30-23. Lamar Jackson had an exceptional game, over 300 passing yards, and obviously big key contributions from Derrick Henry once again, and Zay Flowers came around
Yeah.
this time too, Brad.
Yeah, no, they send Zay on these crossing routes going across the field, and you saw Washington. Dan Orlovsky did a great breakdown of this, and he's basically talking about how Washington, their defense is kind of so bad that they had to, what we say, overload the box. So if the Ravens had 7 guys in the box to threat the run, then the Commanders would put 8 guys in. If the Ravens had 8 guys, the Commanders put 9 guys in, and it was just that Commanders were committed to stopping the run. Well, what that does is that you're just opening up the passing attack, and that's what the Ravens did. And Zay Flowers has the best game of his career, 9 catches, 132 yards, and get this, it all came in the first half. All that was in the first half. So,
Really?
yeah. It's unreal the game that he had. And this is what makes Baltimore so dangerous is if they can run the ball like this. So you've got Derrick Henry running down your throat, and then you've got Lamar Jackson, who's faster than what he was in his MVP season. As well. So you got those 2 dynamic runners. And then if you're playing light in the secondary, if you have to load that box, bring a heavy box, then Lamar he's good enough where he can pick you apart. And you saw it this game. Now, there are other defenses that are going to be playing are going to be better, but because the Commanders' defense is pretty bad. But it's still, what they did was just a textbook. And that's why you got to put them in that Super Bowl conversation. You got to say that they are top 3 to make it to the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Hey, let's talk about 30-year-old Derrick Henry just a little bit, just stats-wise. This season, 6 games only, which we're talking about here with the Ravens. 119 carries, 704 yards, 8 touchdowns.
Jeez.
And for the bettors out there, Derrick Henry has scored at least 1 touchdown in every single game this season. So look out anytime touchdown for King Henry.
Yeah.
And the last 5 games, he's gone over 80 yards. The last 4 over 90 yards in every game. So you know what, Brad? There's some betting lines that are pretty solid right there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that's pretty interesting. So the key's going to be his health. Is he going to be able to stay healthy? And if I'm the Ravens, I limit his touches. I'm sorry, I do, but I put him on a pitch count and I make sure because we've seen this before. And Derrick Henry just runs hog wild, and you get to the end of the season and he just doesn't have much left in his tank. You got to preserve this guy. He's a 30-year-old body, and frankly, I'd be thinking longer term. I'd also be thinking next season because this is working so well. Let's keep him back. And we all know the stats on running backs when they turn 31, they just fall off a cliff. Their production just literally falls off a cliff. So do whatever you can to preserve this guy. And it may mean you might have a little bit closer games. You might have a not so convincing wins. But if it keeps Derrick Henry healthy, do it because you
Yeah.
need him in the playoffs. On the flip side, Jaden Daniels, man, he's the real deal for the Commanders. He is the real deal, and they got themselves a quarterback. And hats off to Caleb Williams, but Daniels is looking like he's a 5-year vet. It was amazing the stuff that he was throwing
Oh yeah,
in that game.
absolutely. He's an awesome, awesome kid. And and if he's this good now, can you imagine a couple of years time?
Oh, I don't want to because the Cowboys are going to have to face him every twice a year.
Yeah, it'd be horrible for you. Um,
Yeah.
the last in the top 5 from Gday AI for this week. Buccaneers and Lions, Brad, showcase high-powered offenses. Both teams displayed explosive offensive capabilities this week. The Bucs scoring obviously an impressive 51 points that we talked about earlier, and we also talked about the Lions absolutely dominating the Dallas Cowboys with a score of 47-9. Both teams seem to be moving forward. We talked about some worries for the Bucs earlier. Another worry, I guess, for the Lions is the loss of Aiden Hutchinson to such a horrible, horrible injury. Yeah, out for the season, maybe more. It depends on how much you can come back from such a brutal compound fracture.
Yeah, yeah. It's exactly. You said it well. You just feel so bad for the guy. What makes me concerned about the Lions now, because I think this is a game-changing injury for the Lions. They go from, I still put them in that Super Bowl conversation, but I think they go from, yeah, clearly the class of the NFC to, okay, how are you gonna replace that pressure that Hutchinson brings? Because come playoff time, you need a guy who's going to be able to pressure the quarterback 4, 5, 6, 7 times. You have to have that. That's a difference maker. Every Super Bowl team has that, whether it's a D tackle or a DN, somebody that can bring pressure. And the Lions don't have anybody else that can bring pressure. So if I'm them, and I know that basically all their chips are in on this season, because odds are Ben Johnson's gone after this season.
Oh yeah, well, you would think so,
Yeah.
unless he really really wants to stay because he likes
Yes.
that coaching
Yeah.
environment. Yeah,
Yeah. So I'd go all in. I'd give up a first, and I'd be not frankly I would be knocking on the Raiders' door, and saying, okay, what does Max Crosby cost us? Because the Raiders aren't doing anything. They're not winning anything, and I know that he's the face of that franchise.
you can
But
knock on, or similarly, the Giants, Brad, Kayvon Thibodeau.
yeah, yeah. Which
I mean, I know
and
he's still in rookie contract, but you never know.
absolutely, and he's been a little bit of a disappointment for them. So absolutely, Miles Garrett, same thing. I mean, his contract might be a little prohibitive, but I'm making calls to different teams saying who's available, because you need a stud to replace a stud.
Yeah, absolutely do. Absolutely do. Well, that's been G'day LA for week 6.
NFL talking weekly buzz. Who's the best? Who's getting love? Top 5 stories, gotta say good day AI. Let's start the day.
Fantastic little machine we've developed here, Brad. It's really been a great part of the show. We're at the end of the Overreaction show for week 6. Thank you very much for joining us on this. Of course, as we have been saying all along, you can find everything to do with the Aussie Gridiron Network and G'day Gridiron at the mothership, Linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network. All of our social links, all the social links for the other shows, the merch store, some other info here and there as well, all under that one banner, under that one link tree. Brad, it's been a pretty cool week to see out. Yeah, have been a lot of fun, as we've talked about. So I guess we will be back on Saturday. You'll hear us next with Nick for some Week 7 previews. We've also got some other pretty cool stuff as well to talk about. So on behalf of myself and Brad, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you on Saturday.
The Gday Gridiron podcast is brought to you by the Aussie Gridiron Network, a network of gridiron content made by Australians for Australians. Check out our other programs, the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show, No Huddle Dynasty, and Pastry Press NFL. And don't forget to like and follow us and the whole of the Aussie Gridiron Network on Instagram, Facebook, and Pastry Press on YouTube.